Hey, Adam Hooksema here from ProjectionHub, and in this video, I'm going to be walking you through the process to assume an EIDL loan, an SBA EIDL loan, as part of a business acquisition. Let me just kind of warn you, this process is not for the faint of heart. You're dealing with the SBA, the federal government, and personal guarantees, and so there's a lot here. I'm going to show you the process, but I'm also going to kind of talk through the reality of what is likely to get the SBA to be willing to approve an assumption of an EIDL loan, and not just an assumption, but also a release of the personal guarantee of the seller. So oftentimes the seller has personally guaranteed the SBA EIDL loan. And when they sell their business, they're hoping to be released from that. They want to be able to not be on the hook personally for that EIDL loan anymore. But of course, the SBA, they don't want to release their guarantor for a weaker guarantor, right? And so you are going to have to make your case that if you want to argue for the release of the personal guarantee of the seller, you're going to have to really make your case that they are in just as strong or better position. And so let me kind of walk you through the steps first in this SBA document, and then we can get into a little bit more of that nuance. But first, I guess just a little bit of my background. I was an SBA lender for 12 years, closed about 1,500 SBA loans during my time as executive director of an organization called Bankable. Now I own ProjectionHub, where we help folks create financial projections and business plans for SBA loans. And more recently, we've been helping folks try to get through this process of assuming an EIDL loan in a business acquisition, which part of that process would include, you got to make your case from a financial projection and business plan perspective as well. So that's kind of been my role in being involved in some of these deals, and wanted to kind of talk you through what the process looks like. So this is a document from the SBA's website that kind of outlines what the process is. So this is really just the current borrower and guarantor is going to have to provide a handful of documents, right? They need to provide tax returns. They need to provide W-2s, so this is just document gathering. The buyer, we're going to assume this is in a business acquisition. So the buyer is the proposed assumptor, must provide a bunch of documents as well, tax returns, pay stubs, that sort of thing, personal financial information, bank statements. And then we're going to get into kind of what is the plan? What's the plan for the business? So they're going to want a detailed business plan, and they want to be able to show what your goal is there is to show that, hey, I'm going to take over this business, and don't worry, SBA, you're in better hands having me as the owner than the seller. That's what you're trying to communicate here. Not just from an operational standpoint that you have the management skills and experience and the ability to operate the business, but that you also have the financial backing, your financial situation is strong as well. So that's what the SBA is going to be looking for here. There's some special rules if the assumptor is a corporation or an LLC instead of an individual. There are, again, financial statements for the business that is going to need to be provided, as well as a monthly debt schedule. So lots of paperwork. Why would you want to go through this process? Well, again, it's because the terms on these loans are just kind of hard to beat or impossible to beat, right? They're low rate, fixed interest, and they are 30-year terms. So no one really wants to pay them off. That's why, if you have a pretty substantial EIDL loan, it could be worth trying to go through the hoops here to get to the other side and assume the loan. Now, you're going to have the details of the purchase agreement, right? Of buying the business. If there's collateral involved, you got to have collateral documentation. That's kind of like the package that needs to be pulled together, right? But what I want to do is kind of show you, I chatted with ChatGPT here to just say, okay, I want to buy a business and assume an SBA EIDL loan as part of the deal. I want to personally guarantee the loan, I'm assuming, but the seller is hoping to be removed as a personal guarantor. Is this possible? And if so, under what circumstances? So I thought this was really helpful in just kind of outlining this and helping you kind of understand what you're going to need to do here. So yes, the SBA can let the seller walk away, but kind of phases here. You're going to prepare the request. This is this whole big list of documents, right? You're preparing your request, making your case, writing a business plan, putting together cash flow projections, showing why this makes sense. And then part of that too is this credit and collateral review. SBA underwriters are going to verify that the buyer is at least as strong as the seller, right? And so in situations where that may just not be the case, what are your options? Well, your options are maybe the seller has to stay on as a personal guarantor for a while. Maybe they stay on for the first year, maybe they stay on for the first couple of years. And then you, as the buyer, you're proving yourself. You're showing that, hey, we can make all of our payments on time. I'm operating the business now, and now we should be able to ask the seller to be removed at some point in the future so So that's one possibility. The other possibility might be that let's pledge some extra collateral. Maybe there's collateral that isn't on the loan. Now let's pledge some extra collateral to help the SBA feel more comfortable. Or let's pay down the EIDL loan, but not pay it off completely. So, maybe there's a $1 million balance on the EIDL loan. Maybe you pay it down $250,000, but maybe they allow you to keep $750 and you can demonstrate why the business is going to be able to cash flow that with a margin of safety. Again, there's not a particular recipe here that says this is exactly what you have to do in order for this to happen. This is I've got to make my case. I've got to make a compelling case to a person at the SBA, an underwriter at the SBA, right? And so I can't give you an equation that will allow that to happen. It's about making your case, okay? Now, there's some additional details here of kind of what process happens, but I want to kind of hit on this. Circumstances that make the approval more or less likely. If you have good loan repayment history, that's helpful. If the buyer's going to inject equity and post equal or better collateral. If the purchase price is greater than the EIDL balance or the buyer makes a principal pay down at closing, and if the change is routine, so family succession, internal entity restructuring. So family succession could make sense. I think here it says transaction with a true third party with little continuity makes the SBA uneasy. So if you're a new buyer, you're buying into the business, if you're working there as an employee, that's helpful, right? If you're already operating the day-to-day, that's helpful. But if you're just coming in, you're looking to buy a business and you have no experience. I mean, this is the same thing of just trying to get an SBA acquisition loan from a bank. You got to go through the same process here. But yeah, I think SBA is going to be tough on you. So you got to really make your case. Now, the last thing I kind of wanted to mention here is just that the timing, and this adds some complication, right? Because there's kind of some unknown timing. It says 60 to 90 days to process assumptions. So if you're trying to get an acquisition done, and let's say you're getting an SBA loan, a standard 7A SBA loan to purchase the business, but as part of that, you're also assuming this SBA EIDL loan, then you got to have all the stars kind of align there, which can be a challenge and create delays in the process. And you don't really have any control of whether or when, how fast the SBA is going to process that assumption. So you got to keep that in mind as well. Maybe the last thing I would point out here, your goal here is Reassure SBA, right? And so that's buyer's resume, projections, business plan, showing the cash flow, showing the plan of how you're going to transition. That's how you're going to reassure the SBA, and it's got to make sense. If you need help going through that process, we'd love to be able to help you with that. You can reach out to us at support@ProjectionHub.com and be happy to help. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure to like this video on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. I'm going to be doing more SBA related content, so we'd love your support. All right, thanks.